Okay guys, I started this long time ago and I promised to do it, and basically I have this problem with procrastination, and 3 months turns to 4 and it was initially, October that I mentioned this? It's now March and I have yet to do this, and even Kyle has beaten me to it. So I should probably do it. Which character do you hate that everyone else seems to love? Well, I hate Theon, but not everyone. That's kind of like split 50-50 that most people do. Who do I hate? It's kind of hard, really. I mean, I don't really hate anyone. Ariana? I'm not a big fan of her, but I don't think she's well liked to begin with. I don't think I like anyone, or I don't think I hate anyone that everyone loves. I don't think that applies to me. Maybe Ned. Ned annoys me, but it's not like I didn't enjoy his chapters. He was just kind of annoying in his really goody-goody way of being, but yeah, I don't think that applies. Which character do you love that everyone seems to hate? Victoron. I guess that would be the one for me. I enjoy him. Yeah. Yeah, so Victoron, I like him. In a purely physical way. Yeah, he's an idiot. What do you expect to see in order to make a good cosplay costume for A Song of Ice and Fire? I expect the people of A Game of Thrones to actually read the damn books and read the descriptions of the outfits, because in the show I hate it. All the women's costumes I absolutely hate. I love the guys' costumes, the women's costumes I hate. In fact, for the Ice and Fire Con, I'm like just being like, you know, I'm not touching the show. I'm just gonna dress Cersei from what I visioned it as being, and I hate the TV show's version of the women. It's like, okay, Cersei is the damn queen, okay? She should not look like any other random lady. Like, okay, she doesn't look like a peasant, but she looks like freaking any other great house. Not even a great house, like a lord's daughter. She looks like a lord's daughter, but she does not look like the freaking queen. I expected, you know, George has, you know, talks about the intricate beading on the bodices and whatnot and all the stitching, and they're wearing frickin' robes. I hate it. So, good cosplay? All the men's costumes are good. I don't know, Dany's has been good. Like, hers looks nice. I don't know why Westeros, you know, is behind on the fashions. So, I don't know, Dany will have the best ones out there. If you had to give up one, which would it be? Oral hygiene or body hygiene? Depends on how long we're talking. If we're going for like just a week, then I'd give up the body hygiene and just brush my teeth. But if we're going for a really long time, I think I will go crazy if I can't wash my hair. It gets itchy. Itch. I'll just avoid the coffee and energy drinks for that time period. Fantasy cast. Oh, FD word. I don't know enough actors. Fantasy cast A Game of Moans, the XXX parody. I guess James Dean would have to be in there somewhere. What's her name? Oh, I have to get back to this after I've researched my favorites' names. Where are the main food stashes in Westeros at the end of A Dance with Dragons? And how long of a winter do you think the major towns will survive until 50% of them die off? The Vale has most of them. King's Landing, I think, has been collecting. Highgarden, Dorne. I think the Riverlands are pretty much fucked. I think we all know that. I don't think the Iron Islands have any sort of planning whatsoever. I think they were just like, yeah, we'll steal from those guys over there. I don't think there was too much raiding going on in the north. I mean, Winterfell, yeah, they're, and around the Stony Shore, is that right? Stony Shore? Yeah, they're pretty half and half. How long? I think they probably got a year or two. I mean, I think they're probably okay for a bit, but then, yeah, everything's going to hell. Do you think Tywin loves his children? I believe he does. I think he really does. He's just not very good at expressing it. He's just one of those dads. But yeah, no, I think he does in his own little twisted way of expectations and whatnot. Would Renly have been a good king if he defeated Stannis, but Loras died? I think the council would have ruled. Like, he would have just been, like, doing whatever. He'd kind of be like Robert in the frivolous spending and just doing what he wanted, and let the council deal with everything. And that would have been him, and he probably would have put a lot of Highgarden people on that council. But I don't think anything has really been shown that shows Highgarden as particularly incompetent. So I think it would have been okay. I mean, I don't think it would have been horrible. I think he wouldn't have been ruling, but I think the people who would have been in his place at least would have known how to do the job. So there's that. It probably wouldn't have been that bad. If Jaime and Cersei were gender swapped at birth, would Jaime really be like Cersei and Cersei be like Jaime? Are they really mirrors of each other's? Ooh, that's hard. No, I don't think they would have been the same. I think there's definitely, you know, I don't think Cersei's personality was shaped only by her experiences. I think there is something wrong with that woman. I think she definitely has a thirst for power. I think it definitely, she would have still been a manipulative asshole even as a guy. Probably not as self-righteous. And Jaime certainly would have accepted his role in society with more grace. I don't know if that's, you know, I had a lot of sympathy for Cersei early on, so it's kind of hard to say. I think he'd probably, well, I don't think he'd be conniving, but he'd certainly be proud. I don't know, I think Jaime would be a lot like Caitlyn, actually. I think that would be a good example of how if Jaime had grown up as Cersei. Which character made you change your mind? Like, change your mind as Jaime or Theon has done? Maybe Cersei. I liked her at the beginning, but then you get to A Feast for Crows and you realize she's batshit crazy, and you're like, oh, no. So there's that. Jaime, at that point I was just kind of steaming through the books, so I didn't really have that time for introspection to really start thinking about his motives deeply. So, I think if I had time between the books that I probably would have had more sympathy for him, and so it wouldn't have been such a shock when you start seeing his side. But yeah, I guess he would be a flip for me. Can't think of anybody else. Actually, if we all went to an Ice and Fire con, who would you cosplay as? Cersei. That's what I'm doing, Cersei. I've thought about doing Sansa and carrying around a decapitated wolf's head just for that fact, but I'm a little bit too old to pull off a 14-year-old girl. Thought about undead Caitlyn too, just because I like doing that kind of makeup. Cersei is my favorite, of course, not the TV show version. Book version. So much great fan art for her too. It's like, why look at how hot she is. Look, she's hot. Yeah. Not Dany. I'd never do Dany. I don't like her. Like, well, I enjoy her chapters, but she's not a favorite at all. Do you still think we're the Black Woody of the... Yes. We are still the Black Woody, and I think we will forever be the Black Woody of the fandom, just because our content is not appropriate for everybody. And you know, we actually did make a decision about this, you know, should we suck up, sell out, I don't know, how do you call it, should, you know, cut back on who we are, and the decision was no. We are the, we enjoy who we are, and we don't want to change that in an attempt to, whatever, get free breakfast with George. We're quite content, being as critical as we are with the series, even if we do come across as the book elitists and whatnot, but that's... and we have fun doing it. I mean, like, I don't think anyone wants us to cut out the potty humor. That's... if you get a group of friends together just talking about a series, this is what it is. And, you know, we don't want to sound like one of those E.T. Hollywood shows. That's not who we are. You can get that from however many other media sites are giving you that kind of information and that take on the series. We are going to give you the nerd, the nerdiest of nerd version of that. If hypothetically you and Mimi both lived in Maine, were in love with each other, and got married, in which position would you initiate sweet carnal lovemaking? Limecom. Okay. I guess there'd be a bit of this going on, and, you know, maybe a bit of that. Or how do I do that? Yeah. Was that what you were looking for? If you had to pick one, having a threesome with the Hound and Gregor, or the Hound and Joffrey. Oh, do I get to be alive at the end? How much physical violence are we talking about? Like, obviously my safety is going to factor in on this. I'm not a masochist. But, like, if we're gonna put Joffrey or Gregor, I'm gonna go with the Gregor, just because I don't like little boys or pretty boys or whatever, you know. So yeah, but you know, the whole possible death thing, that puts him, you know, I think I could take Joffrey. Would you be more attracted to a dude who could speak any language, or a dude who could play an instrument? I am a music person. I actually went to high school for the performing arts for music. I can just sit in a room and watch someone play for like an hour and be perfectly happy doing so, and I have done that. I'm like, yeah, you keep playing. And so yeah, I'm just a music person. Where's the next piercing gonna be? I'm fiddling with it. I don't know. I've always wanted one here, but I play the flute, so I don't play it often anymore, but I've always been kind of worried that that would get in the way if I did it there. Also the side of the nose, I like it with the thingy, but I'm not sure if I'll do that, because I do have a kind of more of a broad nose than most. I really like surface piercings. I'm a big fan of those. I've always wanted, you see the scar kind of there, I used to have it done. Wanted to get that redone, or at least something similar around there. Maybe on the hips. Yeah, I like surface piercings. If someone offered you immediate American citizenship right now, but the price was losing your Canadian citizenship, would you take it? No! Hell no! I like my healthcare, thank you very much. No. Yay, socialism. Which is the lesser of two terrible choices? Being caught cheating on your mate or finding out your mate was cheating on you? I guess that depends on how much I give a damn about that said mate. I guess being caught would be pretty bad and awkward, but I think that's more because I've never really been seriously attached to someone to the point where I would be devastated, so meh. Do you think Amin is a vampire? No. No. Funniest thing Houseman Woody does not know about any of the hosts is... Wait a minute, does that mean we don't know about each other, or that you guys don't know about us? Because I'm pretty sure we leave pretty much everything in those podcasts in the after show, so you know everything about us. And I don't really know all that much personal information about anyone else, so I can't really answer that. Favorite memory of doing a podcast of Ice and Fire off the top of your head? Oh goodness, probably the first Canadian episode. For me. I just had a really good time that night. There was no one else in the house, so I always feel self-conscious that other people are like listening outside the door. I had a good time that night, so that was fun. Underrated thing about doing the podcast. You guys have no idea how many hours goes into doing this. It is ridiculous how much, you know, actual work goes into putting out a podcast. Like, I've listened to them, and it's just, you know, you just get together once a week and record a Skype conversation, but there's so many planning emails that go on throughout the week talking about what we're gonna do, what guests we're gonna have on, what topics we're gonna cover. Just trying to coordinate all our time schedules so that we can all meet up and who's working when and whatnot, and it's just a pain. It's so hard to get us all together these days. And yeah, there's that. Overrated thing? Is that the same thing? Did I get those topics confused? Has anybody of the crew ever been to Europe, and do you plan to plan some kind of Manwoody Europe trip? You know what, I think we need a North American Manwoody trip first. I don't know if anyone's... Well, Mimi's obviously traveled to East Asia, but I have no idea what anyone else has done. I've never been to Europe. The farthest I've been is Costa Rica, and that was obviously at a resort hotel. What moment of the published episodes do you remember best, like the most? I don't know, like the Canadian episode where Amin went crazy on the calls and just called everyone afterwards. That was good times for me. I think I'd remember more, but we all blur together. It's so hard to remember what episode was from what. The boy leather, that was a good time. I had fun with that. There's some episodes that are, you know, more fun than others. I just, it's really, I can't remember one from another though. I'd have to re-listen to the entire thing. Have you listened to all the episodes, and how often? I have tried to listen to them all. I have almost listened to them all. Pretty much that one Boys Night Out, the really long one, the last one, I have not listened to yet. I've started to, but, you know, it's 3 frickin' hours long. I haven't listened to the games one either. So yeah, there's only a couple, maybe 3 that I have, and I do try to listen to them all. I even try to listen to the ones, you know, after they've been put up. Like, well, when I say listen to them all, I don't think any of us listen to the edited versions very often. I used to try to. I gave up a while ago. But the ones that I'm not present for, I do try to make a point of hearing. Do you have any plans for the upcoming 100th episode? We are trying to have plans. We are very bad planners apparently though, so there's that. How long do you expect the Houseman Woody to exist? Until at least all the books have come out, probably for a year after that. If the series is still going, we will continue to cover that. So at least as long as, you know, at least as long as till A Winds of Winter, whatever, Dream of Spring comes out. Where do you see yourself in 5 years? I think we'll still be waiting for a Dream of Spring. What would you ask George R.R. Martin if it ever happens that he is on the podcast? How badly do you want to kill those people who keep asking what's gonna happen if you die? Or why Dick and Man Woody? Why Morris and Man Woody? What possessed you? What were you watching when you were like, this is what I want to name a house in a published book? What would you ask the TV show makers if it ever happened they were on the podcast? Oh, well, obviously I don't want to insult them. How do you deal with us crazy fans? I like to hear that perspective, because I know there are a lot of crazy nutcases out there, us included. Which books do you read between A Song of Ice and Fire books? Well, there is quite a long gap between A Song of Ice and Fire books, so that's quite a lot of books to be reading. I guess the one series I keep reading is the Laurel K. Hamilton, Anita Blake series. I know it's bad. I know. I don't know why. Well, I guess because I've been reading it for so long. Yeah, it's a guilty pleasure. I know they're very horrible books. I read whatever I come across, a bunch of different books. It's kind of hard to say. There's some graphic novels, some fantasy. I like the supernatural stuff though. I do, you know, Kim Harrison, Anita Blake, that kind of genre. That's my thing. I don't like just literature. I don't like the normal bookshelf. I have to go to a genre. I prefer genre fic. What do you think the future holds for post-religious Reformation Cedric the Gain? Oh, I hope he doesn't have like a turnaround. Like Cersei in A Dance with Dragons, I'm hoping what we saw there was her faking it. I really hope that, because if that is real Cersei, I will not be happy. And if Sandor pulls off something similar to that, I will so not be happy. Maybe just him, but to a lesser pissed offness. I hope that's all it is. Let's talk about posters in your room. Oh, okay, posters in my room. Here we go. I've gotten a few more since the last time you guys have seen them. Is this still? Oh, here we go. Okay, so this is Undertaker from Black Butler. It's a very awesome series about, it's kind of like a combination between Batman and Faust, where this boy has his parents killed, so he makes a deal with the devil, and they solve crimes together, and it's really awesome. That's from Durarara. It's an urban fantasy is what it's described as. Those are like the two best characters that barely get any focus because they're idiots and didn't focus on them. Okay, that's Kakashi from Naruto, and he's my favorite character in it because, you know, he looks like that. There we got the Endless from the Sandman series, Neil Gaiman. Awesome. One of my favorite graphic novels. Here we got Stein from Soul Eater, one of my favorite animes. Pretty much Tim Burton meets anime. That's what you will get is Soul Eater. It's awesome. There's Light and Yagami from Death Note. Very cool series about this guy who gets a notebook that if he writes their name in it, that person will die. So he's like trying to make justice throughout the world by killing all the criminals. But obviously you can't just decide that from reading a newspaper, so the other guy is a detective trying to solve the crimes. So it's, you know, a big psychological mind game war between the two. This is Blue Exorcist. The guy is the son of the devil and raised by an exorcist and then discovers that he is, and you know, trying to fight against that. It's a good series. Here we go from Black Butler, Ciel and Sebastian, the boy who gives up his soul, and the butler. It's really awesome series. Really great if you like moral ambiguity. Hellsing, basically Quentin Tarantino meets vampires. That's what you would get. Here we got an Alchemy Gothic poster. It's the Chemical Wedding. If you know much about alchemy, it's a very important thing in it. Well, you probably recognize kind of the symbol they're making is, you know, you see the medical symbol with the snakes, the twirling, and the staff. It's a huge thing in alchemy. I am very bad at explaining things, but it means a lot. Here we got Soul Eater again. My room is not big enough to hold all my stuff, so I've actually got another Soul Eater poster behind it because I don't have enough space for both of them. Here we got the Devil's Carnival poster. I was supposed to get a smaller one signed by everyone, but yeah, they ran out, so they just gave me a big one, as if that makes up for it. I'm a huge fan of Repo, the genetic opera, and so I went to the Devil's Carnival when it came out, so I got that. That's Calendar and Spider Girl on web. Yay! More. So just genetic goth girls, more alchemy gothic stuff. I like this one because I know, like, again, I've studied a lot of alchemy and stuff like that, so I know all these symbols, so I like that. See a Repo, the genetic opera posters. Oh, sorry, I have this plugged in, so it's on a cord. This is my little horror corner. Here we have House on Haunted Hill, my favorite Vincent Price movie. I have a huge Universal horror monsters fan, and here we got the Mummy poster, Phantom of the Opera. We got Frankenstein, Dracula. Here's me when I was in New York outside Madame Trudeau's Wax Museum with Frankenstein. Down here, oh, there's my Phantom of the Opera, Frankenstein, and my London After Midnight has fallen down and won't stay still. Yeah, he's not standing up. More Phantom of the Opera music boxes, and my horror movie collection, which has a lot of sort of my Silence, and we got my vampires and Frankenstein's, Jekyll and Hyde, Hunchback, vampires, werewolf section, all my Vincent Price ones because I'm a huge Vincent Price fan. Yeah, so is that everything? Oh, there's my Hogwarts. Oh yeah, this is me at the Steampunk Convention. We got my photo taken with my friends. That was really cool. You can see. Okay, so that was the tour around my room. Pros and cons of crazy work schedule discussed. We can never find a damn time to all record together. I work overnights, which makes my social life suck as well. Nerdiest memory from childhood. From childhood, I don't think I had very many. I guess I was a Xena fan. I was a huge Xena fan when I was a little girl, and just having to watch that every Wednesday. And when I started playing soccer, I taped the episodes because I had soccer practice on Wednesday nights. Favorite comic book character? Ooh, Skinner Sweet from American Vampire. I am a huge fan of American Vampire. I'm a vampire person. Yeah, he's kinda hot. Do you think Lord Manderley is the best of all? I think he is a fat guy who had a good idea. Yeah. If you could kill one man or woman from Westeros just before a Game of Thrones, who would it be? Probably Littlefinger. I think he had a huge deal with the whole domino collapse going on there. I read a lot of Harry and Hermione fanfiction. While waiting for book 6, did you write any of these, or were you one of those Draco Ginny shippers? I was a snary shipper. Yeah, when I prefer hets, but when I lack decent female characters to work with, I will move to Slash. And I have no problem doing that. I think the Harry Potter series lacked a lot in terms of decent, interesting females to work with. So in that case, I moved on to just shipping the guys, and the characters that just worked the best for me were Harry and Snape. They had the best character interactions. I think they had the most interesting relationships, so when you start poking them in interesting ways, they get the best reactions. So I was a snary shipper. How much does it remind you of Jon Snow from the Leaky Cauldron? Not too much. They're very different. I think he is more actually like the Melissa Nelly of our podcast. I know that title should go to Mimi, but she is not. Yeah, no, in terms of personality, I think Mimi is very Melissa Nelly-ish. Mimi has a class of her own, as do I and Kyle. I am not a Sue Upton. When am I gonna get a new mic and headset? This last headset cost me like $100, so I am not getting a new one. I don't care if it cuts out my mic every 2 minutes. Most of the time I'm not talking anyways. And if, for, you know, worst comes to worst, I borrow my brother's headset. It's not as good, but at least it doesn't cut out, so yeah, I'm not getting one. Which podcast host combo would make the cutest babies? Probably Kyle and Mimi. The smartest babies, probably Mimi and Amin. The nerdiest babies, probably me and Amin. The most charismatic babies, that would be Kyle and Mimi again. What is Ashley's actual haircut? It's actually blonde. It's darker than what it's you know. Can you stupid backwards camera? Yeah, anyways, it's not as light as this is, but it's not quite dirty blonde. It's natural blonde color. People don't realize what natural blonde looks like anymore because Hollywood has everyone dyeing their hair this color, and people think that this is natural, and it's like, no, this is actually pretty freaking bright for blonde. Is Mimi really Mimi's name? No, I believe she's told us that on the podcast. I can't remember her real name right now, but it's not. If America and Canada went to war, what would happen to the podcast? I think Mimi and Kyle would try to marry one of us and move to Canada. Because, yeah. Or maybe vice versa. It depends on who is winning. Why is Kyle such a badass? When did Kyle become a badass? If you could rewrite any chapter in the book, which one and how? There's too many chapters for me to actually remember which one was which. Too many. It's too much of a domino. I'd have to actually think about that for like an hour. What do the other hosts think a day in the life of Amin is like? I think he gets up and like puts on a suit and goes to a very fancy school, or if he's out of school, he goes to a very fancy company and does his thing and doesn't think about the podcast, doesn't talk about the podcast, and pretty much denies all existence of the podcast to anyone who speaks to him, and then goes home and podcasts. Do you think there will ever be an episode dedicated to the mystery at night? Yes, and I will fall asleep during it. When do you think George R.R. Martin will finish the story? Probably in about 5 to 7 years. What is the most annoying thing for you connected to the podcast? Working night shifts and trying to organize a schedule around that works for everyone. Which is the host you like to co-host the most? I think, honestly, the one I've done it the most with is Amin. I don't think I've ever done it with just Kyle, so I have no idea how that will be like. And Mimi, I don't think we've ever done a podcast together. I know we've spoken together. So I'm just more used to Amin. I'm one of those people who like to sit back and let other people lead the conversation and just put in my 2 cents when it pops into my mind. So actually the first time that it ever was just me and Amin together, I was really, really nervous. Because I was like, I don't know what to do. There are 2 people to converse and me just, I have to be the other person here. But it turned out really okay, and now 2 of us podcast a lot together on Bastards of Kingsgrave, so it's really awesome, and it works out. So, yay! Does your family listen to the podcast? No, they do not know I swear. And that's the reason why I don't swear a lot on the podcast, because they're probably listening just outside the door. If you had children, when would you let them listen to the podcast? Well, that means they'd have to read the books, and I wouldn't want them reading these books until they were probably 17, so we'll go with that. Or actually, if they were my kids, we'll probably go with until they were in university, because then they're not allowed to judge me anymore. Which A Song of Ice and Fire character would you prefer to murder? Would you prefer to murder you, and how would you see it? Who would I like to murder me? What? I'll go with Sir Ilan Payne, because I'll just take a quick death, because everyone else is kind of unpredictable in terms of how horrible it's gonna be. Which order would you sooner commit to joining? I get it now. Unsullied, Faceless Men, Silent Sisters, Brave Companions. Well, I don't... I guess Faceless Men would be pretty damn cool. After that, probably the Silent Sisters. Brave Companions I would not touch with a 20-foot pole, and Unsullied I do not have the junk to be junkless for, so I'm not quite sure how that would work out for me. If George R. R. Martin weren't married and he wanted to get to know you in a biblical manner, which may or may not include creaking doors, singing little birds, and feathered hats, would you consent? Oh my. I know Mimi and I have both have joked about this, but if we're talking seriously, I'd have to be on top. That would be a deal breaker right there. What's your favorite baseball team, hockey team, football team? I don't follow the sports enough to know any of this shit. To anyone. 5 favorite songs, 5 favorite movies. That is too damn hard to answer. I listen to way too much music to be able to just say, oh, these are my favorite songs. Yeah, I can't answer that. 5 favorite movies? That's a little easier. Interview with a Vampire. I really love that movie. Mary Shelley's Frankenstein. I know it doesn't, it's the Kenneth Branagh version. I know it's not perfect, but Frankenstein is my favorite story, so I really like that version. It really hit me. It was a big movie for me when it came out. I know that sounds weird. The original black and white silent version of Phantom of the Opera. It's one of my go-to movies whenever I'm feeling depressed. I'll lay down on the couch, put that in, and drink a cup of coffee and just watch that. I know it's weird. How House on Haunted Hill, the Vincent Price version. It's probably my favorite horror movie. Kevin Smith's Dogma. Absolutely love that movie. I've watched it 100 times. I love that kind of stuff. Rent? Can I say Rent? Am I allowed to? I like to sing along. It's one of my favorite Broadway shows. 5 favorite books. Mary Shelley's The Frankenstein, Phantom of the Opera, or probably Susan Kay's Phantom. I'm a Phantom fangirl. Ooh, look at my collection. Yeah, no, it's hard to say actually, because I've read a lot of books. Yeah, no, Frankenstein, Phantom of the Opera, those are 2 that are like big for me. Favorite sport, soccer. I played rep soccer for 6 years. A huge soccer fan. It was a huge part of my life when I was a teenager. 5 favorite TV shows, including Game of Thrones. Well, Game of Thrones is not on my top of my list. Deadwood is a big favorite. Once Upon a Time is a huge one for me right now. Xena was a big one. It's hard to say, like Battlestar Galactica was great. But Babylon 5, I absolutely loved that show when I was younger. I'm not sure if it still holds up, though. I really love Babylon 5. I'm not sure if Firefly counts because I only watched it after it got cancelled. But I love it. But again, it wasn't a show that I watched weekly. I guess that's all the questions. So, thank you for listening to my rambling nonsense. I feel disappointed that I don't know, I feel like I'm missing stuff.